Hi, I'm Toro, and this is the World in Series. Each episode in this series is a quiet journey through time, softly exploring the people, places, and events that shaped a single year in our shared history. So get comfortable, let your thoughts wander, and let's drift back to the world as it was. Tonight, as you settle beneath the soft blankets of sleep, we'll travel together through time. Not too fast, not too far. Just back to the quiet cradle of the year, 1909. Let your eyes grow heavy, your breathing slow. There's no need to rush. History isn't a place of loud voices tonight. It's a gentle breeze across forgotten fields, a quiet footstep through old streets and cobblestone paths. It's the hush of a distant train, the flicker of gas lamps, the rustle of cotton skirts and straw hats. Tonight, we drift into a world lit by oil lamps and lit-up hope. A year where stories unfolded slowly, and the whole world, though changing, was still cradled in the arms of simpler times. Close your eyes and come with me to the world in 1909. World events. As the sun rose on the new year of 1909, the world was turning gently. Its great continents quietly evolving beneath wintry skies and summer suns. The winds of change were blowing, but in the distance, soft and slow. In the United States, a shift in leadership unfolded with quiet ceremony. President Theodore Roosevelt, after 2 full terms, stepped aside, making room for his calm and broad-shouldered friend, William Howard Taft. There were no fierce quarrels or unrest in the streets, just the gentle ticking of democracy's clock, passing power from one steady hand to another. Across the Atlantic, in Great Britain, King Edward VII sat upon the throne. The world still carried the last glimmers of Victorian formality. Though change brewed quietly in the minds of poets, thinkers, and reformers, there were discussions, soft murmurs of women's rights, of labor, of reform. But they floated gently through the salons and parliaments, not yet rising to thunder. In Japan, the Meiji era was reaching its final chapters. Under the peaceful gaze of Emperor Meiji, the country was transforming itself. From centuries of isolation to a new, modern identity. Steam trains wove through the mountains. Western coats mixed with silk kimonos. The old and the new sat side by side like 2 old friends sharing tea. In Norway, explorers gazed southward. A man named Roald Amundsen was quietly preparing, gathering supplies, studying maps, building dreams. The South Pole waited, untouched, and the hush of snow upon ice would one day carry the footprints of human hope. Meanwhile, in the Ottoman Empire, quiet reforms stirred beneath the surface. The Young Turk movement had returned constitutional governance just the year before, and 1909 would see tensions, yes, but also small, deliberate steps toward a different kind of future. Elsewhere, in Persia, the seeds of constitutionalism had taken root, with a slow, determined push for a parliament and rule of law. It was not easy, but it was real. And in a sleepy corner of Serbia, a young man named Gavrilo Princip was only 14 years old. He played among hills, unaware of the shadow he would one day cast. But for now, history held its breath. The world in 1909 still rocked gently in its cradle. Daily life around the world. If you could open your eyes in 1909, what would you see? In a small American town, perhaps in Ohio or Nebraska, the morning might begin with the distant ring of a school bell and the soft clatter of horse hooves on packed earth roads. Children in woolen sweaters and knee socks might walk, hand in hand, carrying lunch wrapped in wax paper, a boiled egg, a slice of bread, maybe an apple. Homes smelled of coal smoke and baking bread. Water came from pumps or pipes. And kitchens glowed with the warmth of cast iron stoves. There was no hum of electricity in most homes, only the soft hiss of gas lamps, or the flicker of candles when dusk came early. In Paris, the cafes were alive by afternoon. People gathered at round tables, sipping dark coffee, wrapped in long coats and scarves, speaking softly in French, with the smell of tobacco and roasting chestnuts in the air. In India, under the British Raj, life in the countryside moved to the rhythm of seasons and harvests. Women wore colorful saris, and the streets echoed with the bells of ox carts and distant temple chants. Children played near wells, and markets filled with turmeric, tea leaves, and rice. In Russia, snow blanketed the streets of St. Petersburg and Moscow. Fur hats and long wool coats kept the cold at bay, and warm soup simmered on hearths. Though unrest simmered below the surface, daily life went on, measured and slow, like the step of a weary horse on frozen ground. In Africa, colonial borders divided ancient cultures, but in small villages untouched by the clock of empire, the sun still told the time, and life moved with rivers, moon phases, and morning bird song. There were no smartphones, no televisions, even radios were rare. News came slowly by paper and post, and the world felt larger, more mysterious, and deeply, deeply quiet. Science, inventions, and technology. In 1909, invention was a flicker, a quiet candle in the window of human progress. Over in Germany, a man named Paul Ehrlich introduced the world to something he called salvarsan, a medicine that would become the first modern antibiotic treatment. It was a whisper, but it would echo through time, saving millions in decades to come. The skies, too, began to stir with possibility. In France, Louis Blériot made a delicate, daring flight across the English Channel, the first of its kind. His small monoplane fluttered like a moth over dark water and landed safely on English soil. Airplanes were still a novelty, like delicate birds built of cloth and wood, but people looked up with wide eyes and dreamed of flying. On the ground, the Ford Model T rolled off assembly lines. Still new, still strange, but growing in number, each one a hum of change, a soft echo of the future. Electricity flickered into more homes and streets. It was still not everywhere, but lamplighters found themselves out of work in places like New York and London. The modern city was beginning to glow. Elsewhere, early color photography gave glimpses of the world as it truly looked. Rosy cheeks, green trees, azure seas. The photos were soft, delicate, still blurry, but full of promise. It was a year of seeds, small ideas planted quietly, which would bloom with time. Culture and the arts. In 1909, music floated through drawing rooms and opera houses alike. Claude Debussy still composed gentle melodies in France, his harmonies soft as mist, his piano work a ripple on still water. In Italy, a young artist named Filippo Tommaso Marinetti published his Futurist Manifesto, calling for energy, speed, and modernity. But for most of the world, the arts were still wrapped in velvet and oil paint. Books found their way into quiet hands. In England, E.M. Forster published A Room with a View, and its pages whispered of love and freedom, with prose like a slow breeze through countryside windows. In Vienna, Gustav Klimt painted with gold and dream. His portraits shimmered with mystery, faces half hidden in swirls of color and symbolism. Vaudeville reigned in America, a stage for comedy, music, juggling, and dance. People gathered in theaters, dressed in suits and gloves, to laugh and forget their troubles for a while. Silent films flickered in black and white, with piano accompaniment echoing softly through theater halls. Actors like Mary Pickford and Charlie Chaplin began to rise, faces known without voices. In drawing rooms, phonographs played wax cylinders, spinning soft lullabies, folk songs, and orchestral pieces. Art in 1909 was not a scream or a shout, but a lullaby in oil, in ink, in strings and paper. Media and headlines. In 1909, the world read its stories on thin, inky paper. Newspapers were the heartbeat of morning routines. The New York Times, the Times of London, Le Figaro, and others were folded under arms or laid beside morning coffee. For a few cents, one could read about the world, the Taft inauguration, the Blériot flight, local markets, and society balls. Headlines were printed with care, with fonts that curled like iron gates, and language that leaned formal and calm. Advertisements in the margins promised hair tonics, new corsets, and coal stoves that burned cleaner than ever before. Children saved for penny magazines like The Strand, or picture weeklies that showed drawings of faraway lands. The world was stitched together by ink, threaded softly with waiting. People born/died. In the gentle unfolding of 1909, new lives began, and some stories came to their final page. That year, a baby named Benny Goodman was born in Chicago. He would one day be called the King of Swing. But for now, he was just a quiet infant, wrapped in a blanket of possibility. In Paris, Simone Weil was born, a thinker and mystic whose words would shimmer long after a time. In England, young Peter Scott came into the world, artist, conservationist, son of a hero. And far away, in a quiet home in Austria, a girl named Greta Schickadans was born. She would go on to shape the world of publishing and catalog retail. Some said goodbye too. Geronimo, the great Apache leader, passed in February. He had seen a world of change, from horseback freedom to fences and cities. And Hermann Minkowski, the mathematician who had mentored Einstein, left behind equations that would echo through the stars. Time, as always, moved gently forward. As 1909 drew to a close, the world stood in quiet balance, not yet in the thunder of war, not still in the hush of the past. The old century whispered its farewells, and the new century blinked open its eyes. Cities grew brighter with electric light. Ideas spread just a little faster. And people, in their homes across the world, lit fires, shared bread, and wondered, as we all do, what the next year might bring. In some places, snow fell gently that December. In others, the warm air of summer swayed the trees. But everywhere, there was breath, there was life, there was change. And though none could know what 1910 would bring, the joys, the sorrows, the discoveries, the world turned softly on its axis. Another year was tucked beneath history's quilt, another chapter written in candlelight and memory. And now, you know it too. Thank you, gentle listener, for drifting through time with me tonight. If you enjoyed this soft passage through the world in 1909, please subscribe, and return whenever your dreams call for history's hush. Until next time, sleep deeply, dream sweetly, and know that time is always waiting, just a lullaby away. Good night from Toro's History Lullabies. And that was this episode in the World in series. A quiet glimpse into a moment in time, softly folded into history. If you enjoyed this